If you've ever picked up a pencil and thought, I can't draw, this 4-step method is about to change everything. So when we talk about drawing, the first thing we want to talk about is just some basic materials, and you don't need a lot to get started. So a good basic sketch pad is 60-pound weight paper. You don't want anything too small. So this is an 8.5 by 11. It's just a standard size. You don't want to go too small. You want to be able to draw, a little larger. Even bigger, I would go bigger but not smaller than this. And then I have a white plastic eraser. I have several different hardnesses of pencils. The one I'm using right now is a graphite pencil. It has no wood on it. It's simply graphite. And what I love about these is that you can turn them on their side and get a lot of nice shading done with them. You can get a point like a regular pencil, and they're just really fun to work with. Now, I have everything from, this is an HB, which is a very light mark, and then I go to a 4B, which is, I skipped the 2B, but I went to the 4B. Then I have a 6B, which is darker, and I have some darker ones, the 8B. I brought some Lyra pencils, which are the chunky graphite sticks that make really beautiful chunky marks. I brought a regular one and a water-soluble one. This is the big chunky Lyra stick. Just a big graphite stick, a big chunky one. Makes beautiful marks and really super fun to use. I have a couple of different water-soluble pencils also. So I want to talk about basic shapes, mark making, and doing some warm-ups with you. So in art, everything has a shape. Everything. So a triangle, a square, and a circle are basic shapes. And here I have the three-dimensional ones that we can work from. But, a circle can become a sphere, a triangle can become a cone, and so on. Everything becomes a three-dimensional object. But when we're drawing, we're working in 2 dimensions, but it's fun to have the little blocks and just for a visual. But the first thing we do is we learn to practice. So for warm-ups, it's really great to practice those basic forms. So don't feel like you have to be perfect. Just play and just figure out, how to make those basic shapes, the circle, the square, the triangle, and just practice those. In the circle, see what direction your circles come out better in, and don't feel like you have to make a perfect circle in one go. Just go around until you find the circle. Don't feel like you need to erase. And then for warm-ups, I'd like you to really experiment with mark making. And mark making is different for everyone. Just see how many different kinds of marks you can make. Light marks, dark marks, what kind of shapes. Your mark making will define your work because every person puts marks down on paper in a different kind of way, because all of us, just like our handwriting, have a unique way of making marks, and that will become a unique signature to your artwork. Practice making straight lines, curved lines, arcs, organic shapes, how you fill in, or what your shading will be like. Do some cross-hatching, or how you would maybe fill in an area. Do you want it to look exciting and raw, or do you want it to look very smooth? Those are the things that I want you to play with and experiment with in your sketchbook and really examine and have fun with. This is the mindful portion of making art, and because you're practicing, it doesn't have to be perfect. So let yourself really enjoy this process. Remember that nobody else will make marks like you do. The more time you practice making marks and doing mark making, the more time you are building a repertoire of marks that are uniquely yours, and you're building your own signature style. So I get these wonderful books from a neighbor to my studio, to my teaching studio, that have these wonderful reference pictures in them. So I think for a quick demo, I'm going to do a bird, and I'm just going to show you how I find the shapes within the bird and then go into refining it as a quick demo. So first, the bird's head is obviously a circle, then I find an oval, a little triangle, and then more of a rectangle shape for the tail. And then after I find those basic shapes, a little triangle for the beak, then I'm going to go in and really start to look very carefully at the bird and its contours. And then I start to refine the shapes after I, find the initial shapes of the bird, okay? And that's how I start. And I always start very lightly, and then as I begin to find the shapes, I darken things up. And now I'm just doing a contour drawing, which is the outside of the bird. I'm not worried about coloring it in or shading it right now. I'm just doing a contour drawing, and I'm looking for the shape of the bird and drawing the outline of the bird right now. So I'm really looking and examining, where everything belongs in the relationships of where things line up. I'm putting in that little pole he's like attached to. I'm trying to see where his feet, come in and how they align with each other, and those types of things. How things add up in relationship to each other. So he starts to look more proportionate. And so you don't have to rush any part of this. Go really slow when you're doing this and look at those relationships when you're drawing. Take your time. There's no rush. Drawing is a mindful activity. So really take your time while you're doing this and pay close attention to these details. And as you get better at it, it will go faster. But in the beginning, you really want to slow down and take your time. And this is how the drawing process goes. Just look for the shapes. Everything has a shape. In this next segment, I really want to talk about looking very carefully and refining your sketch. So here I have a little sprig of greenery that's been dried, and I'm going to do something I really want to talk about with you, which is enlarging that. So a lot of times we have these really interesting shapes or things, and we can enlarge those far beyond what they look like in nature. And the reason I've chosen organic things, a live bird, and now I'm working from life with a little piece of foliage, is that organic things are very forgiving. So when we're working with a firmer object or a tangible object, a machine-made object, those are much more or much less forgiving than something that's organic. So flowers, leaves, butterflies, trees, those are all things that are much more forgiving when we draw them, because there's no two flowers alike, there's no two leaves that are alike. And so if we make a little mistake, no one's going to really notice as much as if we make something that is rigid and hard and machine made. And so starting out with things that are from nature is sometimes a lot easier. Now you'll notice in all these demo sketches, I start out light and then I get darker as I find the shape and then I refine it. Here, the insides of the leaves are lighter and the outsides are darker. So I'm holding this and I'm really examining, and the darker values, and value is just the difference between light and dark in a drawing or painting. I'm really starting to indicate those now. Now that I have all my shapes down, I'm going back in and I'm starting to indicate value. So remember to find your shape, start out light, and then really look at your contours. And then you can start to shade and look for your values. At that point, you're just adding in details and refining your final drawing. I want to talk about creating a finished drawing. So when I'm getting ready to do a finished drawing, I may do several studies of the same picture ahead of time. I might do a detail of it, or I might do several small sketches of it, maybe looser sketches of it. And so in this particular one, it's a plant in a pot. I'm doing it with a water-soluble pencil. But then by the time I do the finished one, I'm quite familiar with the subject. And so in this one, it's quite sped up. It was originally took me about a half hour to do from start to finish. It's still pretty fast. It's still what I would consider a study, but a more finished one. So then I'm looking at things like shape, I'm looking at value, I'm looking at contour. But by the time I've done a couple of studies, I'm really familiar with how everything is laid out and the shapes and how I want things in the composition and all of those things. So that's what I did here, and I have a little bit of a plan for the composition. I have a plan for the values and how I want things laid out. And this is a really fun and mindful practice because I'm just taking my time and I'm really relaxing and going with the flow here. And then I'm going to draw the entire thing. When I'm done drawing, I'm going to activate it, and these turn into a beautiful painterly watercolor piece. Obviously, it's in black and white, but they're just really, really beautiful, and it's very gratifying to add the water. You'll see how it looks as I'm doing it here. It just comes out so pretty. And it's a really great way to start out getting painterly effects when you're just learning to draw. And it's very encouraging to be able to do these little paintings right in the beginning of your drawing journey. I'll have all the materials linked in the description box below, and I'm sure you'll enjoy using these as much as I do.